The night with the Ice Queen CEO ended with me running for the hills. The next day, her assistant sent me a black Amex and a document titled, "A Comprehensive Performance Evaluation of Last Night's Engagement." It read, response time, S, stamina, A+, service attitude, B-, overall assessment, excellent. A handwritten note was attached. Room for improvement. Looking forward to the next performance review. I was so terrified I packed my bags, submitted my resignation, and was ready to move to another state. I thought I was free. Then, on the first day of my new career as a Twitch streamer, a user named J.T. Capital dropped $100,000 in donations into my channel. The attached message read, "Today's KPIs, double the broadcast length, increase audience engagement by 30%, or all incentives will be revoked." The entire internet thought I'd been discovered by a mysterious crypto whale. Only I knew the truth. It was my ex-boss, and she just found a new way to micromanage me. A hangover pounded against my skull like a jackhammer. I cracked my eyes open. Unfamiliar ceiling, silk sheets softer than anything I'd ever touched, and an expensive, sterile scent in the air. This wasn't my apartment. This was the presidential suite at the Carlyle, one of the most ridiculously expensive hotels in New York City. I shot upright, my entire body aching. Clothes were scattered across the floor, mine and a woman's. I turned my head with the slow, creaky motion of a horror movie protagonist. And there she was, a sleeping face, as perfect and cold as sculpted marble. It was my boss, the billionaire CEO of Apex Holdings, Juliana Thorne. My brain blue-screened. At the company party last night, the VPs had cornered me, forcing celebratory shots. I blacked out. And then I apparently ended up with the she-devil herself. Panic, cold and absolute, washed over me. I scrambled out of bed, fumbling to pull on my clothes, my only thought to vanish off the face of the earth. On the nightstand, next to a sleek black credit card, was a single sheet of A4 paper. The title hit me like a punch to the gut. Comprehensive Performance Evaluation. My hand started to shake. Core metrics response time. S, stamina. A+. Overall assessment service attitude. B. Overall rating. Excellent note. A commendable effort. Eager to debrief and strategize for future growth. A B-? Debrief? This was the ultimate humiliation. This wasn't just an insult. She was turning me into a human KPI, a project to be optimized and assessed. I could already picture my nightmarish future. Juliana, standing by the bed with a stopwatch and a clipboard, her expression flat. "Leo, your duration was down 5% from the last session, and your response time slowed by 0.2 seconds. I'll need a full root cause analysis report on my desk by morning." My dignity was worth more than this. I could be fired, but I refused to be performance managed in the bedroom. I stormed back to the desk, grabbed my phone, and typed out a resignation email with fingers flying faster than they ever had on a company report. Subject: I'm done. Body: the world is a big place. I'm going to find a couch to lie on. Sent. The moment it was gone, I felt a profound sense of liberation. Goodbye, you ice-cold corporate overlord. And goodbye to your damn performance reviews. I, Leo Miller, would rather starve, would rather jump from this 30th story window than be subjected to that kind of bullshit ever again. On Monday, I slapped a printed copy of my resignation letter on the bald head of the HR director. He looked at me like I'd just torn up a winning Powerball ticket. "Miller, have you lost your mind? You're on Juliana Thorne's flagship project. This is a career maker. Is the pressure getting to you? I can approve some PTO. Just take a week off." I couldn't be bothered to explain. A career maker? A career as the CEO's performance-reviewed boy toy? No thanks. I just wanted my freedom and a restraining order. My coworkers whispered in their cubicles as I packed my sad little box of desk plants. He must have really screwed up to piss off Miss Thorne. No way. She gave him a shout-out at the party last week. He got arrogant, flew too close to the sun. Their voices buzzed around me like annoying flies. I just wanted to get my paperwork and disappear. Just when I thought they were going to drag out the process for weeks, the HR director's phone rang. He answered, and his expression shifted into a complex cocktail of shock and pity. "It's from Ms. Thorne's office. It's been approved. Effective immediately." He handed me the signed offboarding form. She approved it. The senior VP will handle the project handover. That easy? My stomach dropped. That wasn't her style. An uneasy feeling settled over me. It felt too quiet, like the air before a thunderstorm. Whatever. I was out. Stepping out of the Apex Holdings tower onto the streets of Manhattan, I took a deep breath. Even the smog-filled air tasted sweet with freedom. To make a living, I decided to lean into my one true talent, complaining. I registered a Twitch account under the name Corporate Drone No More. At 8 p.m., I launched my first ever stream. My audience consisted of 3 viewers, 2 of whom were bots assigned by the platform. It was deeply, profoundly awkward. I cleared my throat and decided to just go for it. All right, chat, let's be real. What's the point of this whole 9-to-5 grind? Let me tell you about my psychotic former boss. I launched into a dramatic, colorful rant about my old company's soulless obsession with KPIs, carefully omitting any names or identifying details. Have you ever had a boss give you a B- for your service attitude? I have. And what the hell for? What did I go wrong? Was it because I fell asleep immediately after we finished the project? I was so caught up in my own righteous indignation that I almost forgot I was broadcasting. To my surprise, a few comments trickled into the chat. Dude, I feel you. My boss is a total psycho too. That's brutal. What kind of late-stage capitalism hellscape did you work in? LOL, this guy's actually pretty funny. Follow. My viewership slowly climbed from 3 to 30. A tiny spark of excitement ignited in my chest. Maybe I was onto something. Just then, a gold-plated system notification slid across the screen. User J.T. Capital has entered the chat. G.T. My stomach did that sinking thing again. No, it couldn't be. 3. I told myself to calm down. There were plenty of people with those initials. Someone like Juliana Thorne, who probably scheduled her blinks and breathed according to efficiency metrics, wouldn't be caught dead watching a nobody streamer like me. I ignored it and kept my rant going. I'm telling you, this kind of boss sees employees as assets on a spreadsheet, not human beings. She thinks a paycheck makes it all okay. What about my dignity? My soul? The vibe in the chat was heating up. I just broke into 100 viewers. Suddenly, my screen exploded in a shower of golden, glittering animations. A donation of 10 galaxies, the most expensive virtual gift on the platform. 1 galaxy cost $3,000. 10 was 30 grand. My tiny, pathetic stream was suddenly spamming the notification feed for the entire platform. I stared at the income summary popping up on my dashboard, so shocked I almost fell out of my chair. Holy, thank you, my friend. You beautiful, beautiful fool. No, wait, you're a genius. I was babbling, completely overwhelmed. The chat went wild. Whoa, a wild whale appeared. Bro, you've made it. G.T. Capital, you legend. I was about to lay on the praise, thick to lock down my new sugar daddy, when a message attached to the donation popped up on screen. It was written in a style that was seared into my DNA. Today's KPIs: double the broadcast length, increase audience engagement by 30%, or all incentives will be revoked. The grin on my face froze and then slowly melted away. That tone, that structure, those goddamn KPIs. My hand trembled as I clicked on the profile for J.T. Capital. The avatar was a black void. The gender was listed as male. But my gut was screaming. It was her, Juliana Thorne. How did she find me? I just made this account. What did she want? To keep managing me from afar? And what did revoke all incentives mean? Was she going to take the 30 grand back? Or was it something far, far worse? The viewers in my chat were still celebrating. LMAO, is this a new way to demand more content? The whale has spoken. Guess you're not sleeping tonight, streamer boy. Quick, do a dance for your new boss. I forced a smile that felt more like a pained grimace. Thank you, J.T. Capital. So, listen, my friend, we can talk about this. My brain was spinning, survival instincts firing on all cylinders. Run. The thought slammed into my mind again. But where could I run? The internet has a memory, and Juliana Thorne seemed to have admin privileges for the whole damn thing. I didn't dare end the stream. I was terrified that the threat to revoke all incentives was more than just words. In my mind, Juliana had already tasked Apex Holdings' elite team of hackers with a new mission. The moment I clicked in stream, They would wipe out my bank account, delete my social media, and probably steal my rare Call of Duty weapon skins. It was absolutely something she would do. To protect my $30,000 windfall, I had no choice but to push through. But there was no way I could keep complaining about my ex-boss. What if I said the wrong thing and another KPI dropped from the sky? So I switched tactics. I turned to the camera, my voice cracking with emotion, and began to decry the tyranny of my top donor. You see this, people? This is the crushing fist of capitalism. He's corrupting my artistic integrity with money. He's squeezing every last drop of content out of me with these ruthless KPIs. I took J.T. Capital's message and dissected it, line by line, as a case study in the depravity of the 1%. Double the broadcast length. That's a blatant demand for unpaid overtime. Increase audience engagement by 30%. That's an unrealistic, high-pressure performance target, where all incentives will be revoked. That is an abuse of power. It's extortion. It's workplace harassment. I was so full of mock fury, I nearly acted out my own dramatic death on camera. To my astonishment, it worked brilliantly. The chat was howling with laughter. LMAO, this is tragic, but I can't stop laughing. Subscribed. I have to see how the whale tortures you tomorrow. Dude, did you piss this guy off? Maybe you should just apologize. My channel's popularity surged, quickly pushing me to the #1 spot on the platform's Rising Stars list. Just then, another golden flash lit up my screen. G.T. Capital had sent another galaxy. The message: presentation format is effective. Logic is sound. Maintain this standard. Submit a full data analytics report on stream performance before signing off. I stared blankly at the screen. I was completely losing my mind. This woman was going to be the death of me. Fine. She wanted a show. I give her a show. I pitched my voice up into the most obnoxiously sycophantic tone I could manage. Oh, stop it, Mr. Capital. You big spender, you. My numbers are already through the roof today, all thanks to you. If you keep pushing me this hard, you're going to make me all flustered. I physically cringed at my own words, rubbing the goosebumps off my arms. The chat exploded. Somehow, the hashtag my top donor of my new boss started crawling up the trending topics list on Twitter. Meanwhile, across town, in the top floor office of the Apex Holdings Tower, Juliana Thorne stared impassively at the gurning, theatrical man on her phone screen. Her assistant stood beside her desk, trembling slightly. Ms. Thorne, he appears to be satirizing you. Juliana looked up, her expression unreadable. He seems to be responding positively to this interactive management style. She paused, then issued a new directive. Wire another $50,000 to the J.T. Capital account. The assistant blinked. Yes, Ms. Thorne. Staring at the endless stream of donations and the increasingly absurd directives, I found myself trapped in a bizarre hellscape of financial gain and psychological torment. My channel blew up. It was a full-blown internet phenomenon. I went from a nobody with 2 bots for an audience to one of the hottest new streamers on the platform. My daily content consisted of a running battle of wits with my top donor, J.T. Capital. He used KPIs and cash to manage me from afar, and I turned his relentless pressure into comedy gold, performing for a national audience the tragic tale of a wage slave in the digital age. The fans adored it. They tuned in every night to see what new, insane directive J.T. Capital would issue, and what even more insane way I would find to rebel against it. My income skyrocketed, and I was soon able to afford things I'd only dreamed of. But I wasn't happy. I felt like a hamster in a gilded cage, running on a wheel for Juliana Thorne's amusement. No matter how fast I ran, I knew I could never truly escape. My sudden fame also attracted the attention of one Chadwick Chad, Vance III, the arrogant heir to the Vance Industries fortune and a well-known and deeply unsuccessful suitor of Juliana Thorne. At a charity gala, after being publicly rebuffed by Juliana yet again, he happened to see her glancing at her phone, a flicker of something unreadable on her face. On her screen was my obnoxious, exaggerated face, and the chat log dominated by the name J.T. Capital. Chad grew suspicious. He had his people investigate, and it didn't take long to trace the donation account back to Juliana's personal assistant. Allô, ex-employé. A powerful, untouchable CEO, one ranting on a live stream, the other funneling tens of thousands of dollars to him. Chad's mind immediately leaped to the most sordid conclusion, a tawdry affair between the powerful woman and her kept man. Jealousy and rage burned in his chest. He, Chad Vance III, had been pursuing Juliana for years. How could he possibly lose to some live-streaming pretty boy? Soon, my channel was flooded with trolls. You're nothing but a gold digger. What's it like being some rich bitch's pet? Must be nice. Disgusting. Unfollowed. The vile comments poured in, trying to drown out my real fans. I paused for a second, then went on the offensive. What's the matter, guys? Does my success offend your delicate sensibilities? Did my sugar mama forget to pay for your bot farm subscription this month? Yeah, I've got a rich benefactor who likes me. You don't. Is that why you cry yourself to sleep at night? I unleashed a torrent of expertly crafted insults, leaving the copy-pasting trolls speechless. My actual fans, battle-hardened denizens of the internet, joined the fray and obliterated the trolls completely. The failed attack only made my community stronger. But Chad was clearly not done. A few days later, I received an official invitation to StreamCon, the biggest streaming convention of the year. As the breakout star of the year, I was invited as a special guest. My ego swelled. This was validation, proof that I'd made it. As I was about to RSVP, a private message from J.T. Capital arrived. It was a single, cold directive. Negative. This event has a C-level security rating and a high-risk assessment for negative PR incidents. Advised declining. I stared at the message, and a white-hot anger flared in my chest. You control my stream, you control my sleep schedule, and now you want to control my career? You're doing a risk assessment on my life? You're not my boss anymore. I'm going. Not only am I going, I'm going to stand on that stage and prove to everyone that I, Leo Miller, am not some puppet you can control from the shadows. I immediately replied to the organizers, confirming my attendance. I had no idea I was walking straight into a perfectly laid trap. The Convention Center was a chaotic storm of flashing lights, booming music, and thousands of screaming fans. Backstage, I stood in a rented tuxedo, my heart hammering against my ribs. This was my first major live event. I was equal parts terrified and thrilled. Soon, it was my turn to go on. The host introduced me with a smarmy, condescending tone. And next up, we have a true Cinderella story. He's the man who, thanks to one very mysterious, very rich benefactor, became an overnight sensation. Give it up for Leo Miller, aka Corporate Drone No More. The crowd offered a mix of genuine applause and mocking laughter. I clenched my fists, forced a smile onto my face, and walked into the spotlight. So, Leo, the host said, his eyes glinting with malice, we hear you're a man of many talents. How about you show us one tonight? I was a streamer who ranted into a camera. I had no talents. I stood there awkwardly, the silence stretching as I felt 1,000 pairs of eyes on me. I was a fraud, a clown. In the VIP section, Chad Vance sat with a smug grin, watching the show with relish. Oh well, it seems Leo is a bit shy, the host continued when I didn't respond. That's okay. We all know his real talent is keeping his benefactor happy. In fact, I've gathered a few questions from your fans online that they're dying to have you answer. He held up a card and read from it in a mocking voice. One fan asks, what's it feel like to be a kept man? Is the money really that easy? And another wants to know, besides kissing ass, what can you actually do? The vicious words, amplified by the speakers, echoed through the massive hall. My face flushed hot, blood pounding in my ears. Humiliation, rage, and shame churned in my stomach. I was about to lose it to tell the host exactly where he could shove his question cards when a commotion erupted at the main entrance. A single, powerful spotlight swung to the back of the auditorium. And there she was, Juliana Thorne, dressed in a stunning black evening gown, flanked by a team of imposing bodyguards, walking toward the stage with the deadly grace of a panther. She was in full makeup, her aura of command so intense it sucked the air out of the room. A queen arriving at her court. The entire hall fell silent. Chad Vance's smug grin froze on his face. He never, in his wildest dreams, imagined she would show up in person. The host was dumbfounded. Ms. Thorne, what are you doing here? Juliana ignored him, walking directly to my side on the stage. She plucked the microphone from the host's stunned hand, and her cold, clear voice boomed through the speakers. First, J.T. Capital is my asset. Dead silence. The world tilted. My brain was a blank slate. Did she just admit it? Second, she glanced at Chad, whose face had gone pale. Apex Holdings is signing Mr. Miller to an exclusive, multi-year talent contract, and we will be pursuing legal action against any individual or entity engaged in slander or defamation. And third, Apex Holdings is the primary corporate sponsor of this event. She finished, then shoved the microphone back into my hand. She leaned in, her voice a low whisper only I could hear. What are you waiting for? This is Crisis Management 101. Your performance rating is pending. I looked at her cool, impassive profile, then out at Chad's face, which had turned a fascinating shade of green. I felt like I was dreaming. A nightmare had suddenly, inexplicably, turned into a much, much weirder fantasy. 7 in the backstage green room. The atmosphere was colder than a tomb. Juliana sat on the couch, legs crossed, radiating an aura of absolute power. I stood before her like a child called to the principal's office, unsure of what to do with my hands. Sit, she commanded. I immediately sat on a chair in the farthest corner of the room. Her assistant entered and placed a thick, leather-bound document on the coffee table in front of me. Crisis Aversion and Strategic Partnership Agreement. I opened it, and my scalp began to prickle. The core of the agreement was this. Starting today, I was to act as her contract boyfriend for a period of 1 year, or until Chad Vance was no longer a factor, whichever came first. During this period, I was required to accompany her to public events and present a united front to the media. In return, I would receive a massive signing bonus, full backing from Apex's marketing division, and upon successful completion of the contract, a generous stock option package. Of course, this was followed by 10 pages of fine print and a termination penalty with an astronomical number of zeros. Ms. Thorne. Juliana. I struggled to find my voice. This is insane. You're basically kidnapping me. It's a mutually beneficial partnership, she corrected, her voice flat. If the project succeeds, we both win. You get fame and wealth beyond your current projections, and I neutralize a persistent annoyance. I don't want fame and wealth. I just want to live my life in peace. I practically yelled. She met my gaze, her eyes as calm and unyielding as a frozen lake. Do you really think that's an option anymore? After Chad was humiliated tonight, do you think he'll just let it go? He will use every resource at his disposal to destroy you, and he will not hesitate to go after your family. Her words were like a bucket of ice water, extinguishing my anger and leaving only a cold dread. She was right. I couldn't win against someone like Chad. To increase operational efficiency, you'll move into my penthouse, she stated, dropping another bomb. What? Immersive work environment. You'll be on call 24/7. Is there a problem? Could I say there was a problem? I glanced at the penalty clause in the contract and felt an invisible collar tighten around my neck. And so began my forced cohabitation with the Ice Queen CEO. Her penthouse was a sprawling, minimalist palace overlooking Central Park. My bedroom was directly across the hall from hers. In our new life together, she remained the same KPI-obsessed tyrant. Every morning at 6 a.m. sharp, the AI-powered smart home would wake me with a synthesized version of her voice. Mr. Miller, it is time for your morning data debrief. I opened her refrigerator and found nothing but sparkling water, vacuum-sealed chicken breasts, and organic kale. It was more sterile than an operating room. I muttered to myself, does a human being actually live here? The next day, the fridge was fully stocked with Doritos, Coca-Cola, and a dozen different kinds of chocolate. A sticky note was affixed to the door in her elegant, sharp handwriting. All snack-related caloric intake must be logged in your daily health report, due for submission by 2200 hours. I wasn't her boyfriend. I was a participant in a 24-hour, high-surveillance behavioral modification experiment. But slowly, amidst the soul-crushing madness of our cohabitation, I started to suspect that beneath the glacier, there was something else. Something hidden. Living together was a daily exercise in surrealism. Juliana attempted to apply her corporate logic to the role of a perfect girlfriend, but her execution was always bizarrely, hilariously off base. She decided that couples should watch movies together. So she rented out an entire IMAX theater for a private screening of a 3-hour documentary titled An Analysis of Global Macroeconomic Trends. She decided that couples should share hobbies. So she bought the latest, most advanced gaming rig, complete with a 50-page, custom-written manual she'd authored herself, a strategic framework for enhancing competitive gaming performance, which included detailed KPIs for reaction time, actions per minute, and post-game tactical analysis. I was drowning in a sea of spreadsheets and performance reports. I channeled my frustration into my streams, escalating my complaints about my new contract girlfriend. Chat, has your girlfriend ever taken you on a date to get a full-body biometric scan, only to present you with a detailed health optimization plan afterwards? Mine has. My fans found it funnier than ever, assuming it was all part of the act I'd created. Only I knew that my real life was 1,000 times more absurd than any script I could write. One night, I was streaming as usual when a sharp, stabbing pain shot through my stomach. I broke out in a cold sweat. I tried to play it off, not wanting the viewers to notice. Dude, you okay? You look really pale. Are you sick? Log off and get some rest. The chat filled with concerned messages. I forced a smile. I'm fine, guys, just a little stomach bug. I can push through. As soon as the words left my mouth, my bedroom door burst open. Juliana, dressed in a silk robe, stormed in and, without a word, yanked the power cord of my computer out of the wall. The screen went black. I was stunned, then furious. What the hell are you doing? I'm live. She ignored my outburst, pressing the back of her cool hand against my forehead. Body temperature is 101, 3 degrees Fahrenheit. Heart rate is elevated. This triggers a level 1 health alert. She announced this impassively, then hauled me out of my chair like I was a sack of potatoes and deposited me onto my bed. Terminate all non-essential activities immediately. Bed rest is mandatory. I was in too much pain to argue, so I just watched as she took out her phone, her expression deadly serious as she began to search. How to care for a patient with acute gastroenteritis. 10 recipes for ginger tea with honey. Half an hour later, she returned with a mug of murky, suspicious-looking liquid that smelled vaguely of burnt herbs. Drink this, she commanded. I looked at her face, slightly flushed from the steam in the kitchen, and the sleeve of her $1,000 robe, which now had a mysterious stain on it. Something in my chest softened. Just then, her phone buzzed. Her assistant's frantic voice came through the speaker. Ms. Thorne, the video conference for the European merger is about to start. Their legal team is already online. I expected her to rush off to her office. Instead, she replied with a simple, calm statement. Postpone the meeting. I have a more critical project I'm managing at the moment. She hung up the phone, and the critical project she was referring to was me, lying in bed, being forced to drink a mug of her terrible, homemade ginger tea. I pinched my nose and chugged the whole thing down. For the first time, I thought that maybe, just maybe, this corporate she-devil wasn't so bad after all. 9 Chad Vance's retaliation came faster and was far more vicious than I could have imagined. He was done with petty trolls and online harassment. This time, he came for blood. I received a text from an unknown number. It was a picture of my parents' small diner back in Ohio. My mom was smiling, handing a soda to a neighborhood kid. My dad was dozing in a chair on the porch. A second text followed. You have 24 hours to get away from Juliana Thorne. If you don't, I'll make sure your whole family regrets the day you were born. The blood in my veins turned to ice. A poisonous cocktail of rage and fear seized my heart. I didn't care what happened to my reputation, but I would not let him drag my parents into this. I started to deliberately pull away from Juliana. I made excuses to get out of the couple events she scheduled. I threw the daily health reports she gave me directly into the trash. The way she looked at me shifted from confusion to puzzlement and finally to a cold, analytical stare. I thought she would get angry, that she would demand an explanation, but she didn't. Instead, she just doubled down on her bizarre, data-driven attempts to improve our partnership. She bought me a pair of limited edition sneakers I'd mentioned wanting months ago. The attached note read, Data analysis suggests that material incentives can increase collaborative motivation by up to 27%. She even enrolled me in an expensive executive course on emotional regulation and stress management. The note said, "Your recent emotional volatility deviates from baseline norms. Systematic intervention is required." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was all so frustratingly, painfully her. She had no idea why I was acting this way. Her only solution was to analyze me like a malfunctioning piece of software. Meanwhile, Chad made his next move. He bribed one of my former colleagues at Apex to fabricate evidence showing that I had leaked a confidential bid proposal to their main competitor, Vance Industries. A photoshopped email, a falsified data transfer log. This evidence was published by a prominent financial blogger and immediately went viral. The hashtag Apex West Boyfriend is a corporate spy shot to the #1 trending spot on Twitter. An avalanche of hate and suspicion crashed down on both me and Juliana. Apex Holdings' stock price plummeted, losing billions in market value in a matter of hours. Juliana was facing immense pressure from the board and the shareholders. Chad's call came through, his voice dripping with triumphant glee. "How does it feel, Leo? Walk away now, and this can all be a misunderstanding. Stay, and the next step is watching you and your precious CEO get fitted for matching orange jumpsuits." I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. I looked across the hall, into her home office, where she had been working around the clock to manage the crisis. Her shoulders were tense, but her back was still ramrod straight. She had been dragged into this storm because of me. Running away was no longer an option. This time, I wasn't going anywhere. Then I pushed open the door to her office. Juliana was staring at her computer, her brow furrowed as she dealt with the endless flood of angry emails from investors. She looked up when I entered, her eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. "You should be sleeping," she said, her voice hoarse. "Juliana," I said, walking right up to her desk. "Let me handle this." She studied me with that familiar, analytical gaze. "What is your proposed strategy? What is its probability of success? Do you have a contingency plan?" I took a deep breath. Instead of answering, I asked a question of my own. "Do you trust me?" She fell silent. My heart sank with each passing second. Then, she reached into a drawer and pulled out a file, placing it on the desk in front of me. "This is what our legal and cybersecurity teams found over the last 24 hours. The IP address of the server used to fake the email traces back to a shell corporation owned by Vance Industries. The bank account of the employee who was bribed received a wire transfer for $50,000 from Chad Vance's personal assistant 3 days ago. And this," she clicked open a video file. It was security footage from the street opposite my parents' diner. A couple of thuggish-looking men were loitering outside, one of them taking pictures on his phone. They were Chad's men. "What you need to do," Juliana said, closing her laptop, her eyes clearer and more determined than I had ever seen them, "is go online and tell everyone the truth." Then she said the 4 words that changed everything. "I trust you." That was all I needed. The warmth from those words washed away every last trace of fear and doubt in my heart. I went back to my room, booted up my computer, and started what would be the most important stream of my career. The title was simple. So, about me being a corporate spy. The moment I went live, millions of viewers poured in. My fans, random spectators, trolls waiting to celebrate my downfall, and I was sure Chad Vance himself. I wasn't joking around this time. I enabled screen sharing and, one by one, presented the evidence Juliana had given me to the entire world. This is the faked email. Notice the timestamp down to the millisecond. Now, here are the server logs from Apex Holdings. At that exact time, there was 0 activity on my account. Here are the bank records of the whistleblower. $50,000. That's the going rate for a man's integrity, apparently. Your class act, Chad. Using PowerPoints, spreadsheets, and the cold, hard logic I had absorbed from living with Juliana, I systematically dismantled their entire web of lies. For my final exhibit, I played the security footage. "Chad Vance, you can come after me with any dirty trick you want," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "But you don't touch my family. You cross a line." I was screaming into the camera now. The chat, which had been a mix of skepticism and abuse, erupted into a unified chorus of outrage and support. "Holy shit. What a scumbag. Sue him into oblivion, Leo." Chad Vance needs to be in jail. The tide of public opinion had turned into a tsunami. But I wasn't finished. I clicked a button, and a video call window popped onto the screen. On the other end was the head of Apex Holdings' legal department, his face grim. "I am announcing," the lawyer said, his voice firm and powerful, "that as of 1 hour ago, Apex Holdings has filed a formal police report and a civil lawsuit against Chadwick Vance and Vance Industries for corporate defamation, conspiracy to commit fraud, and witness intimidation, among other charges. We have irrefutable evidence, and we will be seeking the maximum possible damages and penalties." I glanced at the viewer list. In the VIP section, the icon for Chad Vance's account had just gone dark. He knew. He was finished. The storm passed. Chad and his cronies were arrested. Vance Industries' stock crashed and burned, and the company was too busy fighting lawsuits to be a threat to anyone. Juliana and I emerged from the wreckage as the unlikely victors. I was hailed as a hero, a champion of the little guy who had taken on a corporate bully and won. And Juliana, with her masterclass in crisis management, had cemented her reputation as one of the most brilliant and ruthless CEOs in the country. When I got back to the penthouse, Juliana was waiting for me on the sofa. She had changed out of her power suit and was wearing a simple sweater and pants. Without her makeup, she looked younger, softer. A wave of warmth washed over me. I walked over, intending to pull her into a hug. Instead, she handed me a document. I looked at the title and almost choked. Post-mortem report and performance analysis. The Chad Vance Incident Crisis Response. She pointed to a specific page, her expression deadly serious. "According to the data model, your performance during the live broadcast can be rated as S tier. Your logic was sound. The evidence was presented cohesively, and you effectively swayed public opinion. However," she said, her tone shifting, "your emotional regulation requires improvement. Your outburst at the end was too concentrated and could have been perceived as unprofessional, creating a potential vulnerability. I recommend supplementary emotional management training." I looked at her perfectly earnest face, and all the warmth and affection I'd been feeling curdled into a mix of exasperation and amusement. Did this woman have anything in her brain besides KPIs, data models, and performance reviews? I snatched the report from her hand. As she watched in stunned silence, I tore it into 100 tiny pieces. The paper fluttered to the floor like snow. "What are you doing?" she gasped. "I spent all night running those analytics." "Juliana," I said, stepping forward. I cupped her face in my hands, forcing her to look me in the eye. "I don't want KPIs. I don't want performance reviews. I don't want data models. I want you." Her entire body went rigid. For the first time, I saw a flicker of panic in those usually calm, calculating eyes. "I'm in love with you," I said, my voice low and steady. "Not because of your money or your company. I love you. The you who shows she cares by creating a spreadsheet. The you who almost burns down the kitchen trying to make ginger tea. The you that's awkward and brilliant and infuriating and wonderful." The impenetrable fortress of her composure finally cracked. A faint blush crept up her neck, spreading to the tips of her ears. Her eyes darted around the room, unable to meet mine. My biometric analysis indicates," she stammered, "that in situations of heightened emotional distress, the human brain increases its production of dopamine. So what's the probability of success if we get together?" I interrupted, teasing her. She seemed to relax slightly, retreating to the safety of her professional domain. After cross-referencing all multivariable data points, the probability of a successful long-term romantic pairing is 99.9%. What about the last 0.1%? That, she whispered, accounts for unforeseen variables. She looked as though saying this had taken every last ounce of her strength. Then, to my utter astonishment, she stood on her toes, leaned in, and kissed me. Yeah, I could live with those unforeseen variables. 12-hour relationship became the most talked about story on the internet. Apex Holdings PR department, seeing an opportunity, leaned into it hard, marketing us as the power couple of the year. My streaming career hit heights I never could have imagined. To satisfy the public's insatiable curiosity, we agreed to do a special Q&A stream together. I sat in my usual chair, with Juliana perched on a stool beside me. She maintained her cool, composed exterior, but every time she thought the camera wasn't on her, she would steal a quick glance at me. The chat was a waterfall of heart emojis and shipping comments. OMG, it's real. I am dying. The way she looks at him. My heart. I clear my throat, a mischievous idea forming in my head. You know, chat, I said casually. Now that I think about it, my number one donor, J.T. Capital, has been pretty quiet lately. You think he got jealous because I'm off the market? Or maybe he finally ran out of money. I shot a playful look at Juliana. The viewers immediately caught on, and the chat filled with messages summoning our old friend. Arrobas G.T. Capital, where are you? Your man has been stolen. Drop a galaxy to prove your love is real. Juliana gave me a look that said, "Oh, you're so going to get it later?" Then, with a completely straight face, she took out her phone. In front of millions of viewers, she logged into a very familiar-looking account with a black, empty avatar. A second later, my screen was completely obliterated by a tidal wave of gold. G.T. Capital has gifted 5,000 tier 3 subscriptions in corporate Drone No More's channel. 5,000 of the most expensive subscriptions. A donation worth nearly $250,000. The platform's servers audibly groaned under the strain. And in the center of the screen, a message appeared that would go down in streaming history. Perpetual exclusive sponsorship. Budget. Unlimited. G. Thorn. The chat went completely silent for 3 full seconds. Then it detonated. Holy mother of... The benefactor was in the house the whole time. This is the most romantic thing I have ever seen. I approve this marriage. I've eaten so much of this content, I think I'm going to explode. I turned and looked at the woman beside me. She was trying so hard to maintain her Ice Queen composure, but the hopelessly upturned corners of her mouth and the brilliant sparkle in her eyes gave her away completely. I smiled and, right there on camera, took her hand in mine. You know, being performance managed by a billionaire CEO wasn't so bad after all.